ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. Once you have located your seat, we ask you that you please step out of the aisle so the passengers behind you can pass you. This will expedite our boarding process. Your large carry-on items need to go in the overhead compartments. Your smaller ones underneath the seat in front of you, keeping all exits and aisles clear. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard. Once you have located your seat, we ask you that you please step out of the aisle so the passengers behind you can pass you. This will expedite our boarding process. Your large carry-on items need to go in the overhead compartments. Your smaller ones underneath the seat in front of you, keeping all exits and aisles clear. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard. Once you have located your seat, we ask you that you please step out of the aisle so the passengers behind you can pass you. This will expedite our boarding process. Your large carry-on items need to go in the overhead compartments. Your smaller ones underneath the seat in front of you, keeping all exits and aisles clear. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard. Once you have located your seat, we ask you that you please step out of the aisle, keeping all other passengers behind you can pass you. This will expedite our boarding process. Your large carry-on items need to go in the overhead compartments. Your
Welcome back to another live stream. This is the Austin Boarding Pass. Welcome back. This is uh, a, a weekly, somewhat weekly, I hope to have a schedule soon, live stream where we're going to recap all the news and events at the Austin airport. And of course, every week we do a top list or some sort of information, all about the data here at the Austin airport. Hi, Allie. She's in the chat supporting us tonight, so that's good. And really, all this is going to be is sort of a data-based, fun discussion about travel and the best ways to get around delays and to have a good vacation. And weekend warrior it up. And to start, I really want to talk about some of the news and events that have happened over the past week. First of all, today, Copa Airlines. Let me share my screen. Copa Airlines, the first flight out of Austin to Panama, actually is a direct service to Panama City, Panama, and it's actually started today. It is Central Texas's only Latin American airline and nonstop service to Panama. So that is pretty exciting. Direct service over to Panama City. I don't know a ton of what to do in Panama City. I've never been to Central America. I think it means great to just have the option. Copa Airlines has lots of connections to the rest of South America, to other parts of the Caribbean. So just a very useful connection. I think their planes remind me of it has like a very similar logo to the Continental Airlines logo. So kind of reminds me of that. Very similar livery to the United planes. So you might get confused, but they are Copa Airlines. So they're starting this week at AUS, and I think it was raining when they landed here. So maybe bad luck. I'm not sure. Also, there was an announcement that American Airlines is going to launch I'm not exactly sure about the schedule on this. I need to double check, but it's going to start nonstop flights from Austin to Santa Fe, New Mexico on October 7th. So this is going to be another interesting service. American Airlines currently provides a flight to Aspen, Colorado. So another sort of one of these American Airlines flights to a skiing, somewhat pleasant, nice weather location, especially compared to how hot it can get. Even in October, it can be hot. So thinking about going to Santa Fe. I love Santa Fe. It's a fantastic place, great food, lots of things to do there. What else we got here? So the other thing was, yeah, so last, was it before the holiday? It was Thursday, I think, 6:30, yeah. So June 30th. Right, it was a Friday, actually. We had the fifth busiest day at the Austin airport and only the fourth busiest day this year at the Austin airport. So that is kind of crazy that we've had such a busy June. It is a record-breaking June at the Austin airport, with the addition of the Juneteenth holiday in comparison and the return of the, well, of course, Juneteenth has always been a thing, but it's now a federal holiday, so it is definitely increased June's travel in comparison to 2019 and really the pre-COVID times. And you could really see the impact of South by Southwest there in March, the 2 dates in March, the Friday and the Monday of that first weekend of South by Southwest. I'm not exactly sure what happened in April. Is that, maybe that was PGA Tour or something? April 17th, maybe I should look that up. And then October 24th, 2022 is still the record, 42,000 passengers through the security checkpoints at Austin Bergstrom Airport. And that was obviously caused because of F1, and that was a Monday. So all of them are either Fridays or Mondays. So Mondays usually only happen because of events that make people stay the entire weekend, right? Like F1 goes through Sunday. In the case of South by Southwest, goes through the weekend. So then people try to travel home on the Monday following. Anyway, back to the topic of this video. It's all about the top 5 flights to take this summer at AUS. It's going to be all about what are the top flights that are not going to give you a headache. These are the flights. And one of the things I always want to say is flights are not created equal. Airlines prioritize certain flights based on, maybe they don't intentionally necessarily do it because they want to screw you over or something, but airlines always want to prioritize certain flights because either it's just more convenient for them to do so, or they generate more revenue, or it's just like, in the morning, a lot of airlines will prioritize morning flights, making sure they leave on time. So these are the top 5 flights based on the data that has come in here. So I have some criteria here. We're only going to look at departures, and we're only going to look at data that I've collected now since May 19th through yesterday. And I'm having a minimum of at least 20 flights flown in that time, and I'm not allowing any flights that have had cancellations. Sorry, United Airlines. I think that's probably just completely bans United probably from this list because of the tough time they had a week ago. And we're only looking at the top performing flight scores. And I explained that in my last video what a flight score is, but basically it's if you're on time, you get 1 point. If you are late, you only get a certain percentage of that point. So you get 0.8 if you're sort of late. You get 0.5 if you're very late, only 0.2 if you're excessively late, and you get no credit if the flight's canceled. So we're just looking at the top 5 from that list, and that's what I'm going to report here. So these are flights that basically almost got a completely perfect score. They've always been on time and have flown basically daily flights since May 19th, or at least most of those days. So number 5 on this list is Delta Airlines. They're flying to Salt Lake City, and this is a flight that departs in the morning at 8:35. Tracked 30 flights to Salt Lake City. There's an average delay of only 7 minutes, and then was on time 93% of the time. And then this ends up with a score of 97. And when you see 93, that's not, 93%, that's not great, but the flight score of a 97 really tells me that, hey, it may have only been on time 93% of the time, but those 7% of the time was really only going to be late by just maybe 10 or 20 minutes. And honestly, there's a lot of slack in flight schedules, especially earlier in the day. is probably going to land on time or maybe even before that time. So I put a few pictures here. I've been to Salt Lake City once before. I've been to the airport a couple times just connecting through, but it's just like a great destination, especially if you love nature. I have a picture of Grand Teton National Park. I have a picture of Arches National Park, which you can of course get to pretty easily. They're both, I don't know, like a 3 or 4 hour drive from Salt Lake City. And there are so many other national parks in that part of the world. Great Basin in Nevada, it's not too far. So definitely a great flight, especially to take during the summer when you have some time off. Hopefully, definitely Delta Airlines is a pretty solid flight option here. And of course, I got a grade of an A. Flight number 4 is Southwest Airlines, and it's flight 3619, and it's actually the final destination is Fort Lauderdale, and it goes through New Orleans, and you can book this however you want. So you can either just book the flight to New Orleans, or you can book the flight through all the way to Fort Lauderdale, and that's sort of some nice convenience. I've done it before. I actually had a flight from Washington D.C. I connected. Well, it's not really a connection. You just sort of just stay on the plane and you just sit there. So like, let's say you had a Southwest, so you board in groups, right? So if you had a really terrible seat, you had like a middle seat, well, you can just get up and move to like a really good seat, like one of the bulkhead seats, or I don't know, whatever, on a window seat, an aisle seat with whatever team you're on. So anyway, this flight I tracked 23 of these flights. It departs at 5:50 a.m. So definitely one of those early morning flights, and that's a trend we're going to see here. A lot of morning flights, but an average delay of only 2 minutes. On time 96% of the time. So really, it was only late or not on time once. It was canceled. It was never canceled. None of these flights were canceled, and it had a score of almost a perfect score, 99 out of 100. This is just a great flight to take. If you're trying to get either a beach vacation or maybe a food/drinking vacation in New Orleans, I don't know. There's lots of history there, lots of cool things to see there, other than, of course, food and drinking. Definitely a great option. If you don't want the dry heat that we've been having here in Austin, maybe you want more of the hot and humid heat of the Southeast. Definitely check out these spots. This is a great option to take. Number 3 is another Southwest Airlines flight. This is actually kind of an interesting flight map here. It's a flight that goes Austin to St. Louis to Fort Myers. RSW is Fort Myers, Florida. And this is another early morning flight, very early, 5:15 a.m. But that flight is going to go. So make sure you're at the gate. Make sure you get through security. I think that's another video topic for the future, is just how to beat Austin security, how to be sure that you're always going to make those morning flights, because they are definitely worth taking. I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned from looking at the data, has been that, hey, flights like this, 3485, has 23 flights tracked, and has been on time 96, so very similar numbers. It was only late once, and that one delay was very minor in nature. It was a score of 99, so it was definitely, it was barely late going to its leaving AUS. So another good option. St. Louis, tons of history there as well. Of course, you have the St. Louis Gateway Arch. Fort Myers, I know, it was ravaged by a hurricane not that long ago, less than a year ago. So definitely an interesting place. I've spent a few times there, as my childhood was at Sanibel Island. Definitely a great place to visit if you like a beach vacation that's not full of like crazy partying and huge mega resorts. And it'd also be good to visit and make sure that they recover from that hurricane. What else? Number two, this is an interesting one. This is American Airlines 947 is departing at 7:50 a.m. So an early morning flight, but not 5:15 a.m. We tracked 28 flights. Its average delay was actually negative, so it actually departed 1 minute early. On time, was only late once, so basically 96% of the time. It was a score of 99. It was a perfect score on this flight. And this picture is actually my picture from this exact flight, which happened to actually be late. And it was not during the time period that I was actually collecting the data here. But the reason I take the picture is because this flight actually goes over the Grand Canyon. There's a chance, of course, that it wouldn't due to like weather or potentially if there were clouds and you just couldn't see the Grand Canyon. But there's a very high probability you're going to go over the Grand Canyon with this flight. And really, there's only one way to see the Grand Canyon from 30,000 feet without like, owning your own 737, I guess. And it is to just take a flight like this. There's a few other flight options. Maybe that would be a cool video, is to just sort of look at flight routes from Austin that fly over interesting places that you can see from the plane. I don't know if people would actually take that gamble that, hey, maybe there'll be bad weather and you can't actually see anything. But hey, I'm a nerd. I love this kind of stuff. The captain actually came on, was like, hey, we're flying over the Grand Canyon. Just so y'all know, just take a look either side of the plane. It was just Grand Canyon for like ever. It's massive. I mean, it's grand. If you've never seen the Grand Canyon, I don't even know if the flight did it justice. I think I appreciated it more seeing it from the ground and then the plane, so you get the full scale of it. But this is a great flight to take, obviously for this very nerdy specific reason, but also Las Vegas. I'm a huge Vegas nerd. I'm a huge Vegas fan. But there's also stuff to do outside of Vegas if you're more into nature. There's, of course, Vegas, there's lots of food and drinking options and events that are going on there. So definitely, like I was saying, like nature, you have national parks. Of course, you have the Grand Canyon, you have Zion National Park, Joshua Tree, Death Valley. I don't know if any of those would be particularly cool this time of year in terms of temperature wise, but definitely cool in terms of experience wise. Definitely things to knock off the bucket list and enjoy. All right. Also, yes, I have an honorable mention. Last week we had a dishonorable mention. Of course, we've got to have an honorable mention here, where I just take one off the list here. And this is going to be Aeromexico flight to Mexico City. It's called AM 2687, and this is actually the number one flight that I have tracked on my dashboard. So the way I track it is based on flight numbers. So they just really haven't changed their flight number at all. So it's been departing daily at 8:01 a.m. since I've been basically collecting data back in May. And the average delay only 20 minutes, on time 91% of the time. The score ends up at a 97, which means those delays are very minor in nature. So, for 45 flights and to have an on-time percentage of 91% and zero cancellations, that's a very reliable flight that you can count on. And the reason I picked this flight as an honorable mention is that it's an international flight. That's usually very rare to have an international flight where you have to do passport checks, you have to do all sorts of stuff, customs, whatnot, immigration. And to have all that work out and be able to be a very reliable flight is a good thing. And not to mention Mexico City. I've never been to Mexico City, but it is the largest city in North America. So there's one reason to visit. And of course, there's just so much food, culture, things to do. I mean, it's the biggest city in North America. So literally whatever you want to do, you can go do it in Mexico City, basically. And it will be a unique and cool experience. So it's a great flight, and I think this is one I want to take in the future just because of how convenient it is. And it is one of those morning flights again. So the last flight on our list, number one. Oh, right. Sorry, I got to shout out my dashboard and how I'm collecting all this data. So the dashboard here is how I've been, and I have a bunch of code here that's basically collecting data from the Austin airport. We're basically tracking all of the flight numbers here so you can see, hey, that Aeromexico flight, that was really good. It's on time all the time. Or you can see flights that are not on time very often, like this Southwest flight that was only on time 23% of the time. Or, hey, all those United flights that were canceled last week, yeah, you can see the impact of those cancellations on the stats. And all this is really just showing the last 90 days. So I've started collecting in midway through May 19th, 2023. So eventually, and this data set just continues to grow. And what we'll just show is the last 90 days on this dashboard once we get to 90 days. But so far, I've been tracking 25,831 flights so far that we've been tracking. So you can search, of course, by like your destination, your airline, whatever interesting stats that you want to see in the data, if it helps you. And I think, to me, I was using it earlier just to like look for cool flights for this video, and that can give you a lot of interesting things without saying, hey, I want to just look at the data to see, is this a good flight to take, or I'm going to this destination, what is the best flight to take for that destination, or what are the best airlines, all sorts of different things. And one thing I looked at earlier this week, this is using the same data. This is looking at flight status just based on the day, and you can see it started back in May 19th, and that was only halfway through the day, so that's why that day is so low. But and what you can see here is really during 4th of July week, or after the actual day, like 4th of July itself, the 3rd of July, we actually had a really good day at the airport. Lots of, over 80% of flights were on time that day. But you can see up here this blue, this is the darker blue at the top. This is all the canceled United flights from that like craziness due to weather on the East Coast. So yeah, this is just all about my dashboard and my data. You can, of course, in order to get access, you just subscribe to my Patreon. It's $5 a month. It's just called patreon.com/Austin Boarding Pass. And I just can get you access to the dashboards. You can have fun looking around. All right. Flight number 1, the best flight to take this summer at the Austin airport is another Delta Airlines flight to Seattle. It is departing daily at 6 a.m., Delta 952. This also very similar, 31 flights tracked. It was only late one time, and it has a perfect score. That was a very low, very minor delay. It has a score of 99, 0 cancellations on time, 97% of the time. Just a very good flight to take. And it's also at 6 a.m., which sounds crazy, but also, if you think about it, let's say you take this flight on like a Friday, then you would probably get to Seattle at like 8 a.m. local time. So you have the full day ahead of you still. And so you could really make this kind of like a weekend warrior type flight. And if you wanted to like fly back like Sunday late, you'd only have to spend 2 nights in a hotel. So that's kind of the weirdness, although your sleep schedule and the jet lag would be absolutely insane. But maybe you're fine with that and you just want to have a good time, a cheap vacation in Seattle, get away from the heat. This is a good option, and I would definitely recommend it. And that is it for this video. This is it for the live stream. This is our best flight to take this summer. I have some other video ideas planned, all sorts of things coming down the pipeline, all about airline lounges, how to beat those morning flights, how to get past security without missing your flight, all sorts of different things. But that'll do it for me, and thank you, and good night.